For me to start? Okay, thank you. Yeah, oh, absolutely. We have things we have to do, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, of course, in the middle of Moliere. Yes, I've had that happen. And sometimes they don't even say, nobody came on to say, we need to do this. They just got up and left. That's happened. My neighbor's here, Susanetta. You know her. Susan Lowry. Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. She's, she's my neighbor. Ginger is Robin Mullen's sister. Ginger Stallard. I do know. Yeah. She's from Philadelphia. So close enough. Oh yeah, I can't. She wears me out. I know. I know. And you can see her husband go, mm-hmm. Couldn't find anybody to play with. I know. Yeah. MJ. Mm-hmm. I don't know their last name. Oh. Yeah. They when they first moved in, they were there a lot. Oh hey, well, okay. And now they're backed off a lot. I think he sees a lot of people. And he goes, okay, just come on. There's Dirk. Emery and Henry. I'm surprised I knew who he was. I can't see these days. I can read with these, but the prescription I have for this, and I asked the doctor, and he said, sometimes math doesn't match reality. Okay. That means the prescription is what it says it should be according to our math. But I said, well, I want to be able to see better. And that's when he said, well, sometimes math doesn't. Okay, well. Exactly. Well, how nice. How are y'all? Welcome. Welcome to this bunch. Sure, Teresa. Yes. Mm-hmm. Nice. Good. Well, I hear you. I better check my blood sugar real quick. Well, I'm glad I did. Do what now? Uh-huh. Yes. That's amazing. Although, like I said, Texas Army comes through every now and then. I've got all my remedies. Ginger tablets, glucose tabs, water. And you have tea. Maybe time. What'd she say? Well. Oh, no, yeah, there's the cafeteria. Uh-huh. Hi, folks. Welcome. Sweet is the melody, so hard to come by. It's so hard to make every note bend just right. You lay down the hours, leave not one trace, but a tune for the dancing is there in its place. Oh, a dance floor's for gliding, not jumping over ponies, where boots and gold bracelets come and meet as they should. It's for celebrating a Friday night romance, forgetting the bad stuff and just feeling good. Oh, sweet is the melody, so hard to come by, so hard to make every note bend just right. You lay down the hours, leave not one trace, but a tune for the dancing is there in its place. Well, an arm's just an arm till it's wrapped around a shoulder, looped side by side, they go stepping out together. A note's just a note till you wake from your slumber, dare to discover a new melody. Oh, sweet is the melody, so hard to come by, so hard to make every note bend just right. You lay down the hours, leave not one trace, but a tune for the dancing is there in its place. Thank you. We are here today to commemorate the 80th year of Lee Smith and her fabulous writing. And as luck would have it, Lee Smith and I had a mutual friend by the name of Andrina Belcher. Some of y'all may know Andrina, a magnificent storyteller. Well, she passed about 5 years ago, but I found out from my friend Ed Snodderly that she and Lee Smith had worked together, had become good friends and worked together. So I thought I would sing a song for Lee's birthday from Beyond. This is a song called Minerva's Song, and you'll hear the story of it. And I just think of it in terms of, I think it proves that art lives forever, you know. Well, if you want to find me, I'll be in the apple blossoms. If you want to know me, just come walking in the rain. You can hear me in the morning when the bluebirds wake to singing. I am the Easter lilies flowering sweetly in the spring. My maker sent me down here over 90 years ago. The time it passed so swiftly till the hours come too slow. I've lived here on these hillsides, become a woman of the land, baked many score a biscuit and hoed corn alongside my man. Now, if you want to find me, I'll be in the apple blossoms. If you want to know me, just come walking in the rain. If you want to hear me when the bluebirds wake to singing, I am the Easter lilies flowering sweetly in the spring. All God's creatures have their season, and I'm like every other. I've been a fledgling child, a full-grown woman and a mother, a grandma and a great-grandma. My time on earth is done. If you want to talk to me, throw my name out to the sun. Now, if you want to find me, I'll be in the apple blossoms. If you want to know me, just come walking in the rain. You can hear me in the morning when the bluebirds wake to singing. I am the Easter lilies flowering sweetly in the spring. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad that you all have come out to see these amazing artists bring Lee Smith's characters to life. I'm Teresa Burris. I'm the Assistant Vice President of Community Engagement and Economic Development at Emory and Henry University, and I have the great privilege of teaching for the College for Older Adults. It is such a highlight for me to be interacting with such amazing students and to share great Appalachian literature. I wanted to thank Eugene and Quinn for coming. Some of you saw them perform at the Abingdon Library. They're going to be performing at the Bristol Library on April 8th? 9th. April 9th
At 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m., so you could catch them again. I want to give a thanks to David Matlock, who is the Executive Director of the Higher Ed Center. He is the one who is responsible for sponsoring them. Thanks to Ed Morgan, who is the Director of the College for Older Adults. The way this came about, last semester I was teaching 6 novels, and my students said, Teresa, that's a bit much in 6 weeks. So this time I selected 2, and the first one we read was Harriet Arnaud's The Doll Maker, which, as you all know, is very hard-hitting. And now we have been reading Lee Smith's Fair and Tender Ladies. So it made sense to bring Quinn and Eugene here to perform, to bring Lee's characters to life. And I'm going to leave you with, it's at the very start of her novel. It's an epistolary novel, Fair and Tender Ladies, for those who have not read it. And you're going to meet Ivy later in the performance. And I love this line. Ivy is young, and she's talking about her father. And he says, I need a mountain to rest my eyes against. I need a mountain to rest my eyes against. And I think about that, the importance to me as an Appalachian, not only in a literal sense, but in a figurative sense. The symbolism of what that means and the rich cultures, plural, that exist in our region, and how literature brings those cultures to life in such profound ways. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Quinn and Eugene.
I'll rise when the rooster crows, rise when the rooster crows. I'm going back south where the sun shines high, down where the sugar cane grows. Them golden shoes that you heard so much about, if you wore 'em down here, well, you soon wear 'em out. I'm going up yonder, gonna put on my robes, gonna put on my golden shoes. Don't let old Satan try to fool you, for the gates will be closed and you can't get through. With your long white robes and your white socks too, I'm gonna put on my golden shoes. I'll rise when the rooster crows, rise when the rooster crows. I'm a-going back south where the sun shines high, down where the sugar cane grows.
First, Daddy said he wouldn't let us go up there, but my sister Frida started whining and crying and all, and then Mama said, oh, take them then, for God's sake, Durwood. So Daddy said as we started off that night, if you are going with me, I don't want to hear no whining, nor no muley mouthing, nor nothing like it from either one of you girls. I don't want to hear nobody say, Daddy, I'm so tired. Nor do I want to hear nothing spoke about nobody taking a little sip. Yes, sir. And so we start off walking along by Grassy Branch where it was fast coming on night already, dark shadows laying out behind everything, lightning bugs are rising. We stopped for Daddy to light the lantern, and then I got to carry it. We took off on this path that went up into the big trees. It wasn't too hard walking, for Daddy went first, and he would stop right frequent to take a little drink. Me and Frida held hands. It was scary up there in them big trees. We never played up on Cemetery Mountain. It seemed to me I could see faces behind them awful trees, scary old haint faces. I felt those haints was trying to reach out and grab me. I felt like they might have wanted me to come and be their little girl. I was real glad when we got out of those trees and onto a real road. I seen first one lantern and then another, all of them swinging along. It was like being in a big parade of fairy lights moving slow up the mountain. We got up there to a grassy bald, and I could tell this is where we were coming to. There was a lot of people up there already, all talking and laughing. It was my Uncle R.C. who had the first radio in that part of the county, and he had it rigged up to run off in a car battery. Uncle R.C. was talking a mile a minute that night, all excited about this contraption he had rigged up. Daddy bade us put the quilt down and got on it so he would know where we was at, and then he went off with some of his buddies. I ate a biscuit and laid back on the quilt and looked up at the stars, which was real big up there over the mountains. And before long, the radio come on, sure enough, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. And you could hear them talking and laughing just like they was here. I couldn't get over it. And at 9 o'clock, the Grand Ole Opry come on. Daddy come back and sat down on the quilt, and everybody was listening. This was the first time I heard a radio. I felt like I was all alone in the world, and also like I was part of something big all at the same time. I felt like I was part of my family, too, and part of that music they loved so. Frida and me, we got so tickled listening. I couldn't get over this one Opry member that Judge Hay called the harmonica wizard. He could make that harmonica sound every bit like a train coming around the bend and then going right past you and then going off in the distance again. Yeah. We listened to Uncle Jimmy Thompson, who was real old and claimed he could fiddle the bugs off a tater vine. We heard the Pickard family and the Possum Hunters. I reckon everybody's favorite singer was Uncle Dave Macon, who could sing up a storm, every now and then hollering out, "Ding dong," or "Kill yourself." We sat up there on the mountain and listened to WSM until the Grand Ole Opry went off the air after midnight. It ended every time with that judge saying,
"That's all for now, friends, because the tall pines pine and the pawpaws paw, and the bumblebees bumble all around. The grasshopper hops and the eavesdropper drops, while gently the old cow slips away. This is sober old Judge George D. Hay saying, so long."
"So long." Daddy was snoring the last half hour. I sure did hate to wake him up. But finally I roused him. He sat up real wild-like and said, "Where was he?" And then he got up and started off after the rest. But then I got afraid he was gonna fall and hurt himself. He was stumbling so bad. So I caught up to him. "Hey, Daddy," and I put my arm around him. And the three of us walked the long road back And this is what I remember bestest about my daddy. Walking that mountain road along by Grassy Branch with my head full of music and his arm laid across my shoulders. And it was way, way late when we got home.
'Twould been better for us both had we never, in this wide and wicked world, had never met. For the pleasures we both seen together, I am telling you I'll never forget. Oh, I'm thinking tonight of my blue eyes, who are sailing far over the sea. And I'm thinking tonight of him only, and I wonder if he ever thinks of me. Oh, you told me once, dear, that you loved me, and you said that we never would part. But a link in the chain has been broken, leaves me with a sad and aching heart. Oh, I'm thinking tonight of my blue eyes, who are sailing far over the sea. Oh, I'm thinking tonight of him only, and I wonder if he ever thinks of me.
Things happen in high school. At the end of each class, the bell rings and they have 3 minutes to get to the next one. Crystal is always late. Sometimes it's because she can't work the combination on her locker. Most times it's because some boy is carrying her books for her. Often, too, she starts to drift when she walks down those crowded halls and sees all those faces coming at her. Crystal smiles and smiles at everybody. She really wants to be popular. At the end of every day, her mouth hurts from smiling so much. Crystal makes cheerleader, much to her surprise. She is the only 9th grader chosen. The football team elects the cheerleaders, and it is whispered that Crystal got it for her looks, that Becky Ball has a higher jump, that Susie Knight can turn a cartwheel and land in a split. Crystal hears these rumors and cries, but no matter. At that first game, she's right there, running out onto the field in her gold and black uniform, the black V-neck sweater with the big gold letters, the short black skirt with the gold pleats, the new black and white saddle Oxfords. The football games are held at night, and Crystal can't see much of the crowd because of the lights. She's surprised when the crowd actually cheers along with the cheerleaders. Lean to the left, lean to the right, stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight. It's cold out there on the field. Crystal isn't cold. She feels something like a fire inside her every time she jumps. Each time the crowd yells. When they make a touchdown, she thinks she'll die. Crystal attracts attention out there on the field. Boys start calling her up, even juniors and seniors. One of the boys who calls the most is Roger Lee Combs, a football star. Roger Lee is a nice boy with a nice family and a yellow Ford of his own. Crystal dates Roger Lee Combs, holds his hand in the movies. She goes to the homecoming dance with him and dances very close when they play The 12th of Never, her favorite song. Roger Lee's sports jacket leaves an indented crossweave pattern which lasts for a minute or two on her face. At lunch, he buys peppermint patties for her, and she saves the wrappers in a little silver stack in her bureau drawer at home. She has decided to be in love with Roger Lee. But there's this boy in her biology class, Max Stiltner, a mean country boy she keeps looking at. She knows she shouldn't look at him, but she can't help it. Well, most days he isn't even there. He cuts class all the time. Max Stiltner has long dark hair and bad teeth and a bad reputation. He wears shiny black boots and terrible-looking loud shirts. He has a way of putting his feet up in class and leaning back, cocking his head like he doesn't give a damn. He stares at Crystal all the time out of his strange eyes, half blue, half greenish gray, no color, really. He does not smile. In the hall, when Crystal is laughing and talking with her friends or flirting with Roger Lee Combs, she sees him, just staring. He knows she's too good for him. Crystal knows it too. But she can't help herself. She begins staring back. Crystal reads Madame Bovary and Miss Lonely Hearts. She writes a poem comparing life to a candle flame, and Mrs. Munsey reads it aloud to the whole class while Crystal blushes furiously in her seat. One Friday night, at a football game, Max Stiltner sits on the second row, hunched over in an old red plaid shirt, smoking cigarettes and talking to some other wild boys, staring at her. Roger Lee Combs makes a 60-yard run. Crystal thinks she's going to explode, but she doesn't. She jumps higher and higher and shakes her pom-poms wildly, and everyone says, oh, she's the very best cheerleader of all. Once, when Crystal Lee goes to see Thunder Road at the drive-in with Roger Lee Combs, she gets out of Roger Lee's yellow Ford to go over to speak to Pearl Deskins, who is in another car, 2 cars away. It's November now, cold at the drive-in. A lot of people have their car heaters on, so they can't see the screen at all since their windows are all fogged up. Roger Lee says, well, wait a minute. He says he thinks Crystal ought to stay just where she is. No, I want to go talk to Pearl a minute. She crunches through the gravel and opens the front door on the shotgun side. Pearl's date, some boy Crystal has never seen before, is sprawled out on the seat. Crystal can't see very well in the dark. Excuse me? I was looking for Pearl Deskins. The boy fiddles around and then sits up, and then Pearl sits up too, holding her dress up in front of her chest. In the pale light from the movie, Crystal sees Pearl's white shoulders and her back and her hair all messed up. Excuse me, Crystal says and shuts the door. She shivers in the cold air. Petting. Huh. It was all abstract before now. Now she wants to know exactly what they do, how they go about it there in that foggy front seat. Crystal is in love with Roger Lee, of course, but they've never petted. Should they? Crystal can't imagine how it would be with Roger Lee, how they would ever begin. Petting. Even the word is animal, all tied up with kittens and barnyards. Her mother, Lorene, has said it so many times, nobody will respect you. You have got to save yourself from Mr. Right. When Crystal gets back to Roger Lee's car, she won't talk to him at all. She doesn't even thank him when he brings her a vanilla Coke, but sits huddled up on her side by the window. Well, what's the matter? Asks Roger Lee, but Crystal isn't talking. Look at that, he says, when Robert Mitchum wrecks 3 state troopers in a row. Crystal won't look. Roger Lee, not used to moodiness, is charmed. In the darkness of that drive-in, he falls in love. One day, Crystal walks over to town after school by herself and buys some Cree-rinse and the Rexall, and then she calls Lorene to come and pick her up. She stands outside on the sidewalk to wait, facing the gray stone courthouse with the clock in the tower. It's cold. Nobody much is downtown. Edwin Sykes, her uncle, hurries by with his coat collar up. "You think it'll snow?" Crystal says, "I wish it would." She looks up at the close gray clouds. There's a cold place between the top of her knee socks and the bottom of her coat. She wishes her mother would hurry up. "Hello, Crystal," says Max Stiltner. It's the first time he's ever spoken to her. But suddenly, he's there on the sidewalk beside her, wearing somebody's old navy pea jacket. Crystal is surprised to see that he's not much taller than she is. "Hi." And then a terrible embarrassment descends. Crystal looks away from his strange light eyes, and Mac kicks the toe of his boot on the sidewalk. The wind comes down the street, and Crystal shivers in her coat. "Cold?" "Mm-hmm." There does not seem to be anything else to say. "Listen to this," says Mac. And to Crystal's astonishment, he whips a harmonica out of some inside pocket in the pea jacket and starts playing Blue Eyes, playing really well, right there in front of the Rexall. His hair falls in front of his eyes when he plays. Crystal moves closer to Mac. Now she's so close, she can see how his skin is greasy, and he has hair growing in the V of his plaid shirt collar. Mac finishes playing and wipes the spit off on his sleeve. "Okay," he says, puts the harmonica back into his pocket. Crystal stares. She's very close to him now, and she feels funny, weak at the top of her legs, the way she feels when she thinks about the circulation of the blood. "It's starting to snow," she says. Max Stiltner grabs her shoulders with both hands and pulls her to him roughly and kisses her on the mouth. He never closes his eyes, and neither does Crystal. He puts his tongue into her mouth, and Crystal is kissing him back. And then suddenly he lets her go, pushing her back against the Rexall wall, and he's gone, rushing off into the wind. Snowflakes swirl around him until he disappears, never once looking back. Snowflakes fall all over Crystal's face. She looks straight up in the sky and catches them on her mouth. They melt immediately, sweet and cold and utterly strange. Then Lorene is honking the horn. "Didn't you see me?" she says when Crystal finally gets in. No. All she can think about is how Max Stiltner's tongue felt in her mouth. That night she sits by the telephone, but Max Stiltner doesn't call. And the next day, he isn't at school.
Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlight and dewdrops are waiting for thee. sounds of the rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight, have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song, list while I woo thee with soft melody. Gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me.
They call Florrie the cake lady now, and don't think Stella doesn't know it, even though, of course, no one has dared say it to her face. Stella's face is smooth, strong, sealed up tight with Estee Lauder makeup from ear to ear. Stella has run the cosmetics department at Belk's for 20 years and looks like it. Florrie, on the other hand, doesn't care what she looks like or what anybody thinks about it either. Florrie wears running shoes at her age and woolly white athletic socks that fall in crinkles down around her ankles. Whatever else her eye lights upon when she wakes up, stuff Stella wouldn't be caught dead in. Whatever Florrie puts on, though, you can be sure she will have white smudges all over it. That's flour. She's always making those cakes. And then you can see her going through town, carrying them so careful, her tired, plump little face all crackled up and smiling, those Adidas just skimming the ground. Oh, Stella knows what they say. Stella knows the type, and you do too, a town character. It breaks Stella's heart because they were not raised to be town characters, the Luddington girls. They were brought up in considerable refinement, thanks entirely to their sweet mother, Miss Bet. And not a day went by that she did not impress upon them their obligations in this town as the crème de la crème. Florrie and Stella resided in the big gray house on the corner of Lambert and Pine, the house with the gazebo, the hand-carved banisters, the heart pine floors. The same house that Florrie has made a shambles of and lives in to this day in the most perverse manner that Stella can think of. But in those days, it was the loveliest house in town. And the Luddington family had always lived there, aloft, as Stella tells her husband, aloft on the top rung of the social crust. Stella was born with a natural gift for elegance, and this is why she loves Belk's. She goes into work 20 minutes early every day with her own key on a special key ring. She goes straight to the cosmetics department where everything is elegant, gleaming glass counters cleaned the night before by the hired help. All the shiny little bottles and tubes and perfume displays arranged just so. She pours the tea from her thermos into a china cup and settles herself on her high, pink, tufted stool and slowly sips her tea. She uses a saucer, too. The cosmetics department rises like an island on a rose-pink carpet in the center of the store, close to the accessories, but not too close, a long way from the bedspreads. After Stella has been there about 10 minutes or so, everybody else comes trickling in, and she speaks to them pleasantly and pities their makeup and how they look so thrown together, some of them. Then, 5 minutes before Mr. Thomas slides open the huge glass door to the rest of the mall, just when she has reached the hand-painted violet at the bottom of her china cup, then comes the moment she has been waiting for, the reason she gets up 1 whole hour before she has to. This is it, the moment when Mr. Thomas flicks that master switch and her chandelier comes on. Of course, the cosmetics department is the only section of the store that has a chandelier, and it's a real beauty. Oh, hundreds, maybe thousands of glass teardrops glowing like a million little stars, all those shiny tubes and bottles winking back the light. The chandelier is as big as a Volkswagen, hanging right down over Stella, dead center at the soul of Belk's. Stella checks her merchandise then. Maybe she'll add something new or drape a bright silk scarf around a mirror. Stella carries all the most exclusive lines, and she sells to the very best people in town. Oh, nobody else can afford these cosmetics, and Stella keeps it that way. The ladies she helps are the crème de la crème, so she never rushes them, and they will linger for hours sometimes in the sweet-smelling pink air of the cosmetics department, in the soft glow of the chandelier. Stella is calm, aloof, refined, and it's a pleasure in this day and age to deal with someone like that. She doesn't seem to care if anybody buys anything or not, so the ladies buy and buy just to show her. Whatever you read about in Vogue, she's already got it. She ordered it last month. Stella says she keeps 1 foot on the pulse of the future, and it's true. Stella has always stayed up with the times. Florrie doesn't, though. If she made any real money from those cakes, that would be different. But the way Stella figures it, Florrie just barely covers expenses. Well, she won't use a mix, for one thing. And the people she deals with, why, Florrie will make a cake for anybody, any class of person. Stella shudders because today is the day she has circled in her mind to try to talk some sense into Florrie for the umpteenth time. She can't remember a time when Florrie didn't need it, but she can remember when Florrie started making those cakes. In fact, Stella can recall precisely, because she's got such a good head for business, several cakes in particular. And she narrows her frosty green eyelids and totally ignores the tacky woman on the other side of the counter asking if they carry CoverGirl, which of course they do not. And Stella recalls those cakes one by one.
Well, you play the tarantella, all the hounds they start to roar, the boys all go to hell, the Cubans hit the floor. They drive along the pipeline, they tango till they're sore. They take apart their nightmares, they leave them by the door. Let me fall out of the window with confetti in my hair. Deal Jacks are better on a blanket by the stairs. I tell you all my secrets, but I lie about my past. Send me off to bed forevermore. my theme song. I guess daisies will have to do. Just getting me to New Orleans and paint shadows on the piers. Turn the spit on that pig, kick the drum and let me down. Putting my clarinet beneath your bed till I get back in town. Let me fall out of the window with confetti in my hair. Deal out jacks or better on a blanket by the stairs. Tell you all my secrets, but I lie about my past. So send me off to bed forevermore. Make sure she's all in calico and the color of a doll. Wave the flag on Cadillac Day and a skillet on the wall. Cut me a switch or hold your breath till the sun goes down. Write my name on the hood. Send me off to another town. Let me fall out of the window with confetti in my hair. Deal out jacks or better on a blanket by the stairs. I tell you all my secrets, but I lie about my past. So send me off to bed forevermore. Send me off to bed forevermore. Send me off to bed forevermore.
Geneva moves through a dream these days. Right now, she sits in a straight-back kitchen chair on the front porch, stringing pole beans on a newspaper on her lap, looking up every now and then at the dusty green leaves, the way they curl up in the heat, looking at nothing. It is real hot. She strings the beans, drops them into the pot without once looking down. She feels a change coming on. Geneva has known that something is up ever since last Wednesday night when she hollered out in church. She never knew she was going to holler before she did it, "Amen," in a voice that didn't have anything to do with her at all. "Tell it," she yells, and everyone was so surprised. Her daughter Tammy, who is 9 years old and full of notions, put a hymn book in front of her face. She was so embarrassed. After prayer meeting was over, Brother Deskins, the preacher, came up to Geneva and said he surely felt the Spirit moving in that room. I reckon. Brother Deskins was little and scrawny and looked like a guinea hen. Geneva walked with her hands down at her sides and her back straight as a board up the dirt road home. Geneva did not think once about her hollering, but her mind went skidding around and around it, like a fly trying to get at a piece of cake and somebody keeps swatting him off. Now, Geneva goes on stringing beans. She can see the dirt road in front of her house. Wesley Jr. plays in the dirt on the edge of the road. When a car or truck goes by, he throws a rock at it. "You quit that," Geneva says, sometimes, knowing already he won't. There is a lot of traffic today because the James H. Drew Exposition is on up the holler, spread out like a crazy quilt in the bottom at the fork of the road. Dust hangs in the air after every car and truck go by. This is the driest spell anybody remembers. Her daughter Tammy presses out, "I know you're going to say no." Say no to what? Geneva pulls out of her dream, which is about nothing really, a waiting dream. "Well, you are going to say no, aren't you? You always say no. I'm not even going to say it since I know you're going to say no." Geneva looks at the road. Well, aren't you gonna say no? Tammy keeps it up, pushing her face into Geneva's. Tammy has got Wesley's curly hair, his light coloring and freckles. She looks like she has been dusted all over with gold dust out of a flower. Wesley has spoiled her rotten. But when Wesley Jr. was born, Wesley was off working on a pipeline up in Ohio. Nobody was there except some neighbor women. And they laid him in the bed right next to Geneva, and she was almost scared to breathe. He was so little. He was born a long time ahead of when she figured he was due. But Wesley Jr. was dark too, as dark as Geneva herself. And she said to herself, now, this is my baby. And she still keeps him with her all the time. And when he breaks things, she hides it from Wesley. When she tells Wesley Jr. no, he beats his head on the wall or the floor until it gets all bloody, unless she holds him down. He is a cute little thing, though, and anyway, Geneva can understand what he says just fine. Tammy says again, Mama, all right, I tell you, you don't even care, do you? It's going to the carnival. Why can't we go to the carnival? Everybody's going. Lois Ann is going. You never take us any place. She goes in the house and Geneva can hear her in there batting things around. Well, Geneva says, after a while, to nobody. It is so hot that there is a fine gloss on everything, and the heat pushes in on her head. Away off in the sky there is thunder, but that doesn't mean anything. It thunders all the time in the mountains. Tammy says from behind the screen door, Lois Ann says they've got a two-headed pony and a double Ferris wheel. Geneva gets up, goes in the house, washes out the beans, and puts them on to cook with some side meat. Geneva is a big woman with a long white body. Her hair is long and black, and she wears it pulled straight back in a ponytail. Somehow, she has gotten to be 28. Tammy goes on and on. They all talk so much, all of them. Tammy, Wesley, Wesley's mama next door, Wesley's brother Corbin that lives with them sometimes. Geneva gets worn out listening. Oh, there is a change coming on, all right. But Geneva doesn't know what it'll be. 3 times before in her life, she has felt it coming on this way. The first time was when she was real little and her pa died. She was just sitting by the fire. The dog started to bark outside, and it hit her like a rock that her daddy was dead. And sure enough, here came somebody before long to tell them, and he was. The next time was the first time she saw Wesley, when she was not but 16 years old, and he came up there to work on the interstate. She was in the store buying a loaf of bread when he came in all dirty from working, and that hair red gold like a flame around his head. Well, hello there. And he held the door open for her, grinning. And Geneva had felt such a blush start that it went all the way down to her legs. Then he took her to the show, talked a mile a minute, and then he married her 3 weeks later. Nobody ever could see why. But when she saw him come in that door, that's when she felt it. That's when she knew. 12 years now. That's a long time back. The other time was about 5 years ago when the baby she was carrying had died, and she knew it was dead as soon as it quit moving. So there. Geneva sits at the table and looks at the pattern on the oilcloth. little yellow lamps in little blue squares with red stripes running between them. She looks at the oilcloth and traces a square with her finger over and over again. Nothing is worth getting up for. Tammy comes squealing in the door. Mama, come look, it's fixing to rain. Sure enough, the clouds have moved in close and it's thundering again, and a little steady wind has come up, turned the leaves inside out so their silver sides are showing. Wesley Jr. whirls around and around like a top. He loves it when a storm comes up. You better go over to Mama's, but Geneva is already out the back door and across the ditch to Wesley's Mama's house. What took you so long? Mama is all wrapped up tight in the bed with everything shut down. The windows and the doors, the shades pulled down. Lightning is the only thing in the world that Mama is scared of. Geneva knows just what to do. She sits on the bed in the dark, holds Mama like a child on her lap. Mama is so old she has shrunk up to almost nothing. She smells like old rags and snuff. Geneva holds Mama tight while it thunders loud, and Mama begins. Well, I wasn't but 8 or 9 years old. I was sitting in the front room, and it was storming so hard you could see the rain coming in like waves across the valley. We had this tin roof. It was making the awfulest racket you ever heard. And then all of a sudden, a ball of lightning come in the attic, rolled down the stairs, rolled right through the kitchen and through the front room and got me where I was just sitting in my little chair. And then it rolled on out the door and it was gone. I fell right out of the chair on my face. I was passed out for upwards of an hour. I turned black as a cinder, too. How do you know you turned black? Geneva asks. Since you were passed out, I mean. I turned black as a cinder, I tell you. Geneva is burning up. She listens a while longer, but the thunder has stopped and she can't hear any rain either. So she puts Mama back down on the bed and puts up the shade to let in the light. While you're over here, I wished you, but Geneva is already gone, out the back door, straight to their own house. The rain didn't amount to anything, she sees. Thunder and heat lightning, that's all it was. Geneva goes straight in the house, goes right in her room, locks the door behind her, pulls the suitcase out from under the bed, and starts going through all the clothes that Anita, Corbin's wife, left there when she ran off. Anita was a wild thing. Geneva strips down fast, leaves her own clothes lying in a pile on the floor. Then she pulls on a pair of Anita's red polyester short shorts and puts on a white halter with ruffles on it. It takes her a while to figure out how the halter works. And then Geneva goes over and stands in front of the dresser mirror. She has never worn shorts or a halter. And in the mirror, she is wavy and full of flesh. Now Geneva takes the sock where she keeps the material, the money she is saving to buy curtain material. Wesley has some silver dollars in there that he's had since he was a kid, and she takes those too, along with the money. Then she goes back out in the kitchen and hollers for the kids. Tammy's all big-eyed, seeing Geneva in the shorts. What is it, Mama? But Wesley Jr. doesn't notice anything, and he kicks at a kitchen chair until it falls over. Geneva lets it lie. Wesley Jr. is small, black-headed, face like a smart little animal. Geneva leans over and kisses him hard on the face. Come on, we're going to the carnival. Geneva grabs Wesley Jr. tight by the hand, and they go out the front door, and she shuts it and looks back once. Goodbye, house. Tammy looks at her funny. Mama? Mama, can we take Lois Ann with us? Sure. Go get her. Take anybody you want. In a little while, Tammy is back with Lois Ann. Lois Ann is wearing a tacky pink dress, and she has pierced ears just like her mother, who is on welfare. A long time before they get there, oh, they can hear it. The carnival music, people talking loud, a lot of noise. Geneva walks in her dream, but when she gets there, the dream is gone, and all the colors are so bright they hurt her eyes. They fall in with a whole raft of people moving across the old wooden bridge and into the bottom. The bottom is all changed now, all different, all new. The carnival people have put up their tents everywhere and set up little stalls, and the Ferris wheel is so high it takes your breath away. All the rides are going. Everything in the carnival is bright and moving. None of this was here Thursday, Geneva thinks. And none of it will be here tomorrow. Geneva looks back down the creek and sees two carnival women down there with their earrings catching the sun, beating out clothes on a rock. Then they're up to the gate, and Geneva pays. A carnival man is there just inside the gate. He's dark-faced with long curly hair like a gypsy, and he has something in his hand. "Here you go, Sonny," he says. Holds out his hand to Wesley Jr. Wesley Jr. sticks his hand right out and gets it, a little green and red plastic snake with sequin eyes. The carnival man grins, and his teeth are brown and stained. And when Geneva looks down to get away from his eyes, the skin on her legs looks so white. Geneva buys a roll of tickets for each kid. She stares hard at the woman in the ticket booth, a woman who has dyed blonde hair and a lot of makeup and shorts Geneva on change by $1. Geneva doesn't care. They start riding the rides, and Geneva rides every one: the tilt-a-whirl, the roller coaster, the merry-go-round, the bumper cars. She squeals as loud as the kids. And when they get dizzy and sick from riding, they eat cotton candy and popcorn and drink warm Cokes because the ice machine broke down. After they all eat, they go down the row of little tents where the games are, and everyone calls out to Geneva. Sometimes she lets the kids play, and then she gets to throwing baseballs herself into a bushel basket. And finally she wins a big blue panda bear for Tammy. Mama, Lois Ann has got to go to the bathroom." "Can't you wait?" But Lois Ann screws up her face. Wesley Jr. sets in crying because he wants to ride the Silver Bullet. So Geneva buys another roll of tickets and tells him to stay on it until she gets back. And then she takes Lois Ann and Tammy by the hand and goes to ask the old man in the food trailer. No bathrooms. I'm sorry, we don't have them." Lois Ann starts crying and twisting her feet around. The old man leans over and jerks a thumb back toward the mountain where the carnival people live. "Just go on back that way. Take her somewhere back in there." Geneva asks Lois Ann, "Will you go in the bushes?" "No." "Well, you're going to." Back in the mess of trailers, she sees how they live, sees their underwear hung up to dry. And when they get beyond the last one, Lois Ann squats down finally in the bushes and does it. And when she straightens up, she puts her hand over her mouth and points. And in the door of the closest trailer, a man is standing, just watching them. "Here, girls, you run on now." She hands them some tickets, and they giggle and duck their heads and run. Geneva stands still and looks at the man. He opens the door of the trailer, an old beat-up blue Airstream. The man comes out, shuts the door behind him. He stands on the trailer steps, squinting in the sunlight. He is the same man who was at the gate when they came into the carnival. Now he has taken off his shirt and his shoes, and he's wearing some old work pants down on his hips. He stares at Geneva like he stared at her before, and she stands there absolutely still and looks back. "You from around here?" "Mm-hmm." The man looks at her some more. "Well, why don't you come in here and visit with me a while? I won't bite you." He grins a wild carnival grin, and Geneva grins back. Then she runs off as fast as she can go, and she's out of breath by the time she gets back where the rides are. Wesley Jr. is all right. He's up there on the Silver Bullet, like she told him, going 100 miles a minute and screaming all the time. I could have done that, Geneva thinks. I could have gone in that Airstream trailer and never come out. I could have moved in with them wherever they're going, stayed every night in a different town. I could have beat out my clothes on every rock and every river in the world. Geneva throws back her head and laughs until tears come into her eyes. Wesley Jr. looks down and sees her and laughs too, and his little arms flap like wings in the wind. Different. That's how Wesley Jr. is. But there is something about Geneva that is like him, and she might as well be up there with him right now. Look at him go, like some kind of crazy bird. Fly away, fly away. Ah. Geneva feels good. After a while, Tammy and Lois Ann come along. Geneva gives them 2 of Wesley's silver dollars to spend on gumball necklaces. Then after Wesley Jr. uses up the last of the tickets, they start on back. Lois Ann and Tammy take turns carrying the big blue panda bear. And when they get close to the house, Tammy gets sick. Everything Tammy throws up is pink. Wesley is sitting in the kitchen, drinking a beer. "Where you been?" But then he sees the panda bear. He sits back and watches Geneva while she makes some cornbread, slices tomatoes, and sets the table. Geneva makes Tammy take Mama some cornbread. When Geneva brings the beans over from the stove, Wesley reaches out and makes a big grab at her. Gotcha! But Geneva slips right by and puts the beans down on the table. "You all come on and eat."
Come all you fair and tender ladies, be careful how you court young men. They're like the stars of a summer's morning. They first appear and then they're if I'd have known when I was courting that love was such a killing crime, I'd have locked my heart in a box of gold and held it closed with silver.
My dear Jolie, I know I'm worrying you by staying up here by myself, but I can't do nothing else. It won't do you any good to hire somebody neither. I would just run them off. there does come a time when a person has got to be by themselves. You ask about the letters Marty found in my cedar chest when I was in the hospital. I don't know if I can explain this to you or not. I know your Aunt Sylvanie, my sister Sylvanie, died in the Elizabeth Masters home in the great flu epidemic. I've been knowing it since Victor come home from the war and went up there and found out about it. I got so mad at him for telling me, for I did not want to know it then. Sylvanie was my other half, my heart. So I went on and wrote her letters all the years. You know what I done with those letters now? I cleared the snow out of the fire pit and burnt them, every one. Took me upwards of an hour. And with every one I burnt, my soul grew lighter, like it rose up with the smoke. For I came to understand something, Jolie, I never understood in all these years. The letters didn't mean anything. It was the writing of them that signified. My dear Sylvanie, I know it has been a long time since last you heard from me. I am so sorry for it. I've been sick. I'm better today, though. But I've been thinking, but all of a sudden I am dying to write. I'm dying to... Oh, Sylvanie, today is the lastest snow. It's real pretty, laying like lace all across the yard. 100 little rivers running down the yard, all of them shining. The ice is melting. The Ice Queen walks in beauty like the night of shooting stars and cloudless skies. Oh, there's a big hawk circling in the blue, blue sky. Lord, it is a pretty day. It reminds me of my daddy when he gave us the birch bark to lick. It tasted so sweet on your tongue. And he said, slow down now, Ivy, slow down now. This is the taste of spring. Oh, how Oakley loved the spring. When I close my eyes, I can see him, Oakley, always Oakley, coming out of that black and smoking mine, bearing his own sweet face like a present. I see Lonnie Rash, the day he left for war, and all the high muddy water rushed under the bridge. There is a time for war. I see Franklin Ransom the night we danced in his father's house, and the overhead fans blew down on us, and all the furniture covered with white sheets looked like ghosts. There is a time to dance. There is a time to be born. When Jolie came, it was moonlight advancing slow across my quilt, square by square. Sugar and spice and everything nice. I used to think that I would be a writer. I thought then that I would write of love, but how little we know. We spend our years as a tale that is told. I have spent my years so I never became a writer at all. Instead, I have loved and loved. Instead, I have lived up here on this mountain. I climbed it once, up and up and up, past the tree line, following Honey Breeding's white shirt. Honey's hair shone golden in the morning light. White Bear Whittington still lives up on Hell Mountain. He lives here yet, I tell you. He runs through the night, yet he will sleep of a day as peaceful as a lullaby. Winking, blinking, and nod one night, sailed off in a wooden shoe. There is a time for every purpose under heaven. I think I can hear the old bell ringing like I rang it to call them home. Oh, I was young then, and I walked in my body like a queen. Come, all ye fair and tender ladies, be careful how you court young men. They're like the stars of a summer's morning. They first appear and then they're gone.
That was awesome. So I figured Stella would look down on me, so I avoided the steps and just hopped up on the stage. Quinn Hawksworth probably would not be living in Abingdon today if it weren't for Lee Smith. Quinn came to the Barter Theater with a professional theater company from North Carolina in an adaptation of Lee's The Devil's Dream and stayed to perform with the Barter for several years. After leaving, she used the extra time to fine-tune skills as a fabric artist. Eugene Wolfe has been an actor with Barter Theater for 28 years and is best known for his role as A.P. Carter in Keep on the Sunny Side. He sings with Ed Snarley as one half of the Brother Boys, and as a storyteller, he tours with his one-man show, The Book of Mamaw. You all, let's thank them again.
Thank you.
I will say, I mean, for my students, you can see just what we're reading come to life. This is the beauty of the storytelling tradition in Appalachia. I mean, it's just it swells your heart and brings tears to your eyes and everything in between. So, yes, thanks you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. It was nice to see you out there. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good.
Yes, I know you go. That's where I thought I know her place.
Yeah, we are, yeah. Yeah, on Grundy.
Yeah, but it took, in this kind of setting.
Thank you, thanks.
Quinn, I will bring you a check tomorrow. I got the full check, and I meant to bring you a check today. But is that the best way to give you money? You don't have Venmo, do you? Well, that's right. That's right. What?
Ooh,
That was a lovely.
well,
Yeah,
yeah.
but you know what I mean. It's in here. It's hard to make the connection. I felt it. Yeah, but you plowed right through, and it was lovely. But and then they came. Then they came to it. But what do we have? 50 people or so? Do you think? Maybe that many. Great. And I'll be anxious to see. I think they'll archive it on the YouTube channel. I'll send you the link. Or you have the link already. Well, anyway, or I'll send it to you in case you, but you may not want to look at it.
No, I won't look at it.
I got you. There's that. This is, I'll leave this here. What now? Oh, yes, exactly. And my pump went off. Did you hear it?
You know,
Necessary.
yeah.
Yeah. We're not an evil. I'm not. Oh, it just meant you can carry. I think I'll be okay. I don't think there's anything. I think the stand is the only.
Well, maybe before April.
Oh, yeah, we'll do
Have
another.
get
Oh, yeah,
together.
that's great. And it's so wonderful because the material is so good. That, you know what I mean? You know how, when you rehearse,
Yeah, yeah. No,
particularly with things that don't have what this has.
and in a good way. I mean, you know how.
Don't find new things. Oh, I noticed a lot of different stuff today that you discovered. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you,
Our
Teresa.
pleasure, yeah, yeah.
Hey,
It's
buddy,
our
how are
pleasure.
you? Good to see you. Yeah, thank you.
No? Thank you very much. We love it.
We were just saying how wonderful it is to live with these people. This hardly feels
Yeah.
like fiction,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It's our